Hey guys, I'm your host, David Powell, and you're listening to Curiously Veg Radio. Hey guys, welcome to episode 34 of Curiously Veg Radio. Bringing the FX back to you. Everyone, if you're new to the show, or it's been a while, I know we're coming back after quite a bit, just to let everyone in the know, Curiously Veg is a movement which will open a dialogue between vegan, vegetarian, plant-based, and non-plant-based people alike, where we educate, not intimidate. Say it with me now if you know it. Oh, yeah. I love that part. I really love that part. So it's been a bit with, it's, life happens, keeping things in the air, new job, and this weather. Of course, we're located in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. For those outside the country, we have a few countries who tune in. There was a massive hurricane that came up through the Caribbean and that type of area, and up through Florida. And I know Caribbean's probably wrong, but it came up through Florida. A lot of damage. I really hope everyone everyone there, listener or not, is safe. Everyone's fine, and they're back home rebuilding. Our thoughts are with you, especially your pets were able to get out. I know Jason Flax from Friends to the Forlorn. Jason, apologize if I butchered that a little bit. I know they went down to help with some rescue efforts. Jason, I will put a link to your stuff. He does mainly pit bull rescues. He has some other dogs and pets for adoption. But he does mainly a lot of pit bull rescues. But I will put a link to him in the show notes. He really went out down to Florida, packed up some vans, went down there and really helped out. I want to make sure everyone gets opportunity to show him some love and help out if you can. Maybe you're looking to adopt and bring a new fur baby into the home. But yeah, it's so between the weather, we did have internet go out for almost a week, probably about 3 days, 3 to 4 days, and then power was kind of shaky for a bit. We had to work out. I worked out of Starbucks, for a bit. So did my girlfriend worked out of Starbucks as well, because she works in a lab and has to do schoolwork and everything else. So. So I'm glad to be back. I'm trying to make these regular. I'm talking to a few people to hopefully have some really cool things lined up, especially for newer vegans. And a friend of mine had this really long existential thing she went through, and I really want to have her on and talk to her about that. She hasn't really gotten details out to everybody yet, so I'm gonna give her a chance to speak up, and then I want to bring her on and kind of talk through what she went through, because I'm sure any experience we have should be shared with each other, so we can help someone going through something similar to move forward and overcome and be a better person, whether it be mental health or physical health. And she's a physical trainer as well, so she can definitely answer some questions, I'm sure, and talk about how that can relate. But I'm kind of anxious to hear her side before we jump into it. Speaking of jump into it, I'd like to jump into what we're talking about today. Today, I wanted to cover what I would call some 5 vegan myths. These aren't like the top 5, these are just 5. There's a few of them out there. We've mentioned vegan myths on the show before, and things are misconceptions and things like that. And I want to touch on them again. I know, walking through Facebook and social media, we have a lot of newcomers. The movement is growing. People are opening their eyes and their hearts and their minds. So I want to hit something that I hear a lot. People ask me. My girlfriend will tell her colleagues and professors, things like this, about my diet, and they ask her questions. She, knows they're crazy, and she'll come back and tell me, and we have a little bit of a laugh about it. So I want to touch on 5 misconceptions or myths, and as I go through this, if something, maybe I missed something, or miss a detail, or maybe there's a myth that I really should have on this list, email me, curiouslyveg@gmail.com. Shoot me an email, and I will actually update the list on the next episode and kind of backtrack, maybe some retractions or some additions on the next episode. But first, the one thing that came up recently was the first vegan myth is, number 1, heavy supplementation. You get this a lot. People are like, well, don't you take a lot of pills and a lot of extra supplements? And it's people assume if you remove animal products, remove milk and eggs and meat and all this and fish, all this out of your diet, you're not going to get your omega acids and your protein and calcium and fiber and well, not fiber. I'm supposed to get fiber, calcium, iodine, things like this. Um, and and that has some merit to it, some truth to a degree, depending on if you're kind of diligent. For the most part, of course, excuse me, a planned diet, which is basically you're making sure. When I say planned diet, you're making sure you're getting your nuts, your seeds, your grains, your rice, your leafy greens, bell peppers, onions, your soy, your tofu, things like that. You're getting a balance, and that's going to ensure you're going to hit all your vitamins and minerals and nutrients you need. A very common one where you hear is B12. Something to bear in mind is everyone has a B12 deficiency. And I kind of want to talk about B12 for 1 second because that happens a lot. So yes, a study has been done. There was a British study that was done that found that people mainly vegans, people on a plant-based diet, were up to around 50% deficiency. Meat eaters, omnivores, also had deficiency, though it was drastically smaller. And the reason for B12 does not come from animals. That's something very important to understand. B12 is not an animal-only derived nutrient. Okay. It comes from the soil. The microbes in the soil is what creates the B12. It's a byproduct of microbes breaking down material in the soil. A meat eater would get it from a cow or the chicken or whatever they're eating. Eating foods that are usually fortified. So the plant food that the animal is eating is already fortified with B12. Okay? Because B12 comes from dirt. And most of the animals that are consumed aren't eating like grass and stuff right out of the earth. Though there are some, majority of them are fed soy and corn and other feed that has been scrubbed and washed. And the difference with vegans is we tend to really wash our fruits and vegetables, so we get all the dirt off. So we're not doing it. So naturally, we would be looking for like root vegetables and things on the ground, nuts and berries and things that are on the ground. You would get them and eat them. We wouldn't really wash them off that much. You might brush them off and naturally, but most of us, especially ones listening to the show on the interwebs, lives in an environment where you go to the grocery store, even if you go to a farmer's market, you go home and you get your little brush. There's even vegetable and brushes. You can brush all the dirt off. So that B12 is going. Now, I'm not advocating you eat handfuls of dirt or just don't wash your food or anything like that. If I go to a farmer's market and there's a little bit of dirt on my carrots, I'm probably not gonna worry about it. That's me. Some people would say that's kind of gross, but that's I don't worry about it as much. My mom, especially when when we moved our apartments to a house, my mom always had some sort of garden, and so it was very typical for us, like cucumbers and carrots and this sort of stuff she would have, and we would cook them and mom would try this and we'd just eat it as is. My mom grew up on a farm, so it wasn't weird for her. So I grew up eating that sort of stuff. So dirt on my food, it doesn't really bother me or freak me out. So you have your meat eaters who are eating, the animals that are eating fortified foods have B12 added to them. And vegans, typically, we're not eating the animals or the animal products that come from animals eating fortified foods. Instead, we're washing our fruits and vegetables, so we're washing the B12 off, which would come from the dirt. So, which is why vegans tend to be lower in it. So, the thing is, and things your meat eating friends are like, well, you're much lower in B12 than me. Yeah, because I have to eat foods that are fortified in B12. You're eating the animal that's doing that anyway. You're eating an animal that's fortified as it is. You're just getting it. You're getting it in a roundabout way, as opposed to where I'm getting it in a direct way. So, what's interesting is nutritionfacts.org. Dr. Michael Greger, amazing source. If you're new to veganism, if you're new to health and really understand where things are coming from, nutritionfacts.org. Dr. Michael McGregor. I'm sorry, Dr. Michael Greger. I always do McGregor. Dr. Michael Greger, MD. Amazing source, nutritionfacts.org. He has all of his research laid out for you. A great book, How Not to Die. Not a plug, just a great book. Great amount of sources in here. I was looking into this and looking at this and kind of like do some research, and some recent studies, recent being in the last few years, have found that vegans notably tend to be lower in calcium, iodine, and B12. That's three. Three we tend to be lower in. Where omnivores, or people who are not on a plant-based diet, tend to be in a deficiency for calcium, fiber, folate, iodine, magnesium, vitamin C, and vitamin E. Now, what's important to look at that, and we have what are similarities? Our similarities are calcium. Similarities are iodine. Those are two similarities. Okay, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So you have fiber, where omnivores are typically lower in. Vegans, we tend to eat very fibrous foods. We tend to eat things that are very have like broccoli and things like this that are high in fiber, a lot of oats and a lot of things like this that are going to add a lot of fiber to us, so we don't have a fiber issue. The old joke is, where do you get your protein? Where do you get your fiber? And you have like folate and iodines are going to those come from a lot of nuts and seeds and things like this, and sea vegetables that vegans tend to eat more of, and omnivores tend to eat less of. Of course, you have vitamin C and vitamin E that are coming from your leafy greens, your bell peppers, your fruits, and things like that. Again, the things like these we vegans tend to eat more of, so we don't have those deficiencies where non-plant-based eaters tend to be lower because they're not eating the same, because we tend to eat higher amounts of fruits and vegetables because we have to get the same amount of calories with fruits and vegetables, so we tend to vary our diets up. Now, what they found is the calcium. There's actually been a decline in calcium intake on vegans, and it's not because our sources are going down. It's because we're not eating them. We've over time we've kind of stopped eating as much kale and eating our broccoli, and we're kind of letting those dark leafy greens go to the wayside. And this happens with trends. It happens, I remember when kale was the thing. Kale was on everything. I love kale. Kale's great, but it was in everything. And then the trends tend to go and come, and and then it's I kind of know what the fad is right now. I'm sure it's some sort of like weird rice, but but we're not eating as much. So it's really to get your calcium, eat your dark leafy greens, your collard greens, your and your kales. There's many types of kales, and they're great for you. I love dinosaur kale. It's really great. Broccolini, and your broccoli, they're fibrous, great source of protein, but they're also going to give you a good boost in calcium. And so that's what we're lower in, but we definitely need to watch for, make sure we're getting our calcium. The reason calcium. The reason we need to focus on plant-based calcium as opposed to dairy-based calcium, which most people say, well, drink milk and and eat these dairy yogurts and cow milk yogurts. A plant-based source for calcium is absorbed more efficiently and is readily available to the body. Where as we know that the calcium when you take in dairy, it actually has a negative effect on your body. So the calcium is not readily absorbed because it's not something your body can pull into like it can from a plant-based. But your body actually needs calcium to level out your blood pH. So when you're taking in dairy, you're actually changing the pH of your blood. So you're actually going to leach calcium to actually level out that pH. So that's also the reason there's a study as well. I hate saying the phrase, there's a study, and I'm happy to get sources. If you want to know sources from these things I'm saying there's studies for, just shoot me a message. I'm happy to pull them up for you. I've found them and read them so many times, I'm sure I can hunt them down again. But what they found was there is the uptick. Women who consumed dairy products regularly actually had an uptick in like hip fractures. And so that's what they were finding is that they were telling people forever, drink milk, healthy bones. And what they're finding is it's actually leaking the calcium from the bones to level out your pH levels, and that's actually higher levels of hip fractures later in life. So when you're worried about calcium as a female, you worry about calcium because you're more susceptible to osteoporosis. So dark leafy greens and broccoli is going to get you fibers and get you protein, but definitely your calcium and be more readily available without actually leaking the calcium directly from your bones and leaving you more susceptible to hip fractures when you're older, osteoporosis, and that sort of thing. So our next one, iodinized. So iodine is, again, both omnivores and vegans are low in iodine. Mainly because of the sources. Iodinized salt As a way I know, growing up, my mom used iodinized salt when she would cook things, and that kept iodine in. I don't know if that's why she did it. I think it's something that she grew up using, so she just kind of kept it on. But I'm glad she did. It kept our iodine. And you need iodine, of course, for like thyroid function and things like that. But a great source is sea vegetables, seaweed. They make seaweed snacks. There's also sushi, you do little nari seaweed wraps, things like that. Sea vegetables in general. There's you can probably there's a lot of, at least in the Atlanta area, there's quite a few vegan Asian places, and they do a lot. They try to mimic fish and shrimp and scallops with like sea vegetables. So and sea cucumber is not a sea vegetable, so don't even try it. Uh, but sea vegetables are a great source because they absorb all of the iodine and the micronutrients that are naturally in the water. That's going to help you keep your iodine levels up and keep them in a good spot. Of course, you don't want to have too much iodine; that causes issues as well. But a regular intake of sea vegetables or just using an iodinized salt uh, will will help with your iodine levels. Of course, we talked about B12, and I think what the interesting thing is, if you noticed, I listed three things for vegans, and God, what was this? One, two, three, four, five, like seven, eight things for omnis. And again, I think this speaks leaps and bounds over what we always say is that a vegan diet is low in calorie, high in nutrient, where a non-vegan diet um, is sorry, it's low in calorie, high in nutrient, where an omni diet is high in calorie, low nutrient. And I think the study that this shows really just shows that. You have eight deficiencies. Deficiencies aren't someone who's like a little low. Deficiency is you need to increase your intake. This to me shows leaps and bounds that an omni diet is drastically lower in vitamins and micronutrients compared to a vegan diet where we have a few, and even the calcium, iodine, B12, that stuff we would actually kind of get naturally eating a leafy greens and our broccoli and being around salty water and eating like kelp and different types of sea vegetables and just eating stuff with dirt on it. Things we would get naturally just eating a normal plant-based diet if you were just out in the wild, if you were. Where an omni diet, even then, you're still going to be deficient because you're not following that plant-based diet. To eat something, and again, I've talked about why I went vegan and how the science pointed me in that direction. This actually kind of feels like backs me up in that concept. Number two, the next one is body type, gender, and race. Um, and I I wanted to touch on this because it's very typically expected that the body type is like really athletic and trim. The gender is female and the race is white. So typically, when you talk about someone being vegan, like, oh, it's going to be a really healthy, fit-looking white female. I'm vegan. So I am a white vegan. I am of the Caucasian male persuasion. So I kind of break that stereotype, at least with the gender. And the body type, I'm not a trim, athletic body type. Got a little bit of cushion, It's I'm back in the gym working on it. But so I the concept of and that you are and you have to be a specific body type, a gender, and a race is something that I think is seen. That's a myth that's seen a lot more prevalent. I think within. I think we can see ourselves that way sometimes, where we automatically assume this, and we should definitely try. And vegans, we tend to be a little open-minded. We should definitely try to reach out and bring in people who are, don't fit the stereotypical really athletic, trim body type. Aren't reach out to people of different genders or even transgender or different and people who have different gender identities, and make sure we're pulling in other races and really opening the conversation and not just really focusing on that. Now, I know when I worked for a specific nonprofit that that was a target market. If you looked at our market, that was a target audience. When you looked at social media and analytics, it was white female. That was typical, and I find it interesting. And I know and there was talks of how can they, when we say how can they kind of pull in and look at bringing other people into the movement. I think it's important for us to do that as well. Now, I say this, it's a stereotype, but it's also a myth. If any of you have ever been to a veg fest, a vegan festival, go to the farmer's market. You're going to see people of different body types buying vegetables and different genders and races out there. And whenever you see someone who's kind of bucking the myth, like, speak up for them. Like, oh, it's great. There's so much inclusion. We have this myth of, this like really thin white female kind of view of what a vegan looks like, and it's great that that there's people out there who are breaking that. It's always great to break these stereotypes and these myths to really be more encompassing. I had a quote here. I want to kind of read and touch back on is, let me read this right quick. It's, I've worked with dozens of clients who gained weight after transitioning to a plant-based diet. It says Georgie Fear. I'm going to say Georgie. I think it's Georgie. I'm going to say Georgie Fear, a registered dietitian and author. When someone adopts a vegan diet, they often decrease their intake of protein and increase their intake of carbohydrates, Fear explains. Since carbs tend to be less satisfying than proteins and fats, in a sense less filling, that's my little sidebar, they tend to increase their intake of carbohydrates. So tends to be less satisfying than fats. Excess in calorie intake can occur, which can lead to weight gain. To avoid weight gain, Fear recommends focus your meals on fresh vegetables, which are low in calories, and make ample use of plant-based protein, which are highly satisfying, such as hemp seeds, tofu, edamame, beans, nuts, and seeds. So, I want to read that because it's important that we also recognize that it's possible to be unhealthy on a vegan diet. So they're not necessarily saying being healthy and break that fit stereotype and go crazy. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying it's important for us to be aware of our own health. Vegans tend to be more over health anyway, but make sure you're eating enough calories so you're not underweight, and you're also make sure you're eating a healthy plant-based diet that's high in fruits and vegetables with your normal carbohydrates, your breads, your grains, your wheats, and stuff like that, to ensure your healthy weight, but you don't necessarily have to fit into this trim athletic body type. If you're male and you're thinking about going vegan, but what will your buddies say? Look, it doesn't matter, dude. I eat burritos and tacos. I had tacos tonight. I had cauliflower tacos and falafel tacos, and I had tamale tonight, and it was awesome. I went out with a bunch of guys from work, and that's what I had. We went to the same restaurant. That was my first day at work, and no one said a word. If you're a guy and you're worried about the gender side of it, nobody's gonna make fun of you because of like, oh, you're have this whole female gender myth and stereotype. Break that. Step up. Represent the community that you're joining into, and it's like, yeah, we're not. It's not a bunch of women. This is men who come in and want to be compassionate and want to make a difference. If you're a person who of color, or you're a person of this considered part of a minority group, and you're worried. And again, a lot of minority groups tend to have certain foods and diets that kind of go along with them, and it's important to kind of it's like step up, join the community. We're all here to support you, and break the myth, break the stereotype, and let's all come together as one community and show that we were all together as different body types, different genders, gender identities, and different races. And so we're all coming together and saying we're all different, but we all are under the same cause, and that's the reduction of animal suffering and the promotion of a healthy diet that is proper for everyone, regardless of who you are. And that's very important. I really want to focus on that. I love going to Veg Fest and seeing everyone of different backgrounds, races, genders, gender identities, body types, and we're eating so much taste. I went to Veg Fest a couple years ago, and I'm standing there and I smell something that smells delicious. I look over and I go, "What's this?" And they go, "This is a pan-fried peanut butter sandwich." And I was like, "That is going with me." Because I am right now not worried about my body type. So you what you gotta do, and then we're gonna have a pan-fried peanut butter sandwich in my face. And that's what happened. I regret nothing. So the next thing I want to talk about is veganism being too expensive. That is a big myth. Any diet, I don't care if you're, I do care if you're vegan or not vegan, but if you're vegan, vegetarian, flexitarian, pescatarian, omnivore, paleo, any diet can be expensive. Write it down. You can be a vegan and you can walk into the produce section and get a bunch of like nice vegetables, organic if you can, non-organic, some rice, and you're not really gonna break a bank. Or you can go in there and get the really like gourmet mushrooms and like the really highly sought after like veggie burgers that are like made with a special and you can go and buy three things and you're walking out of the store and $40-$50 lighter. So it really, that's the idea that a plant-based diet has to be expensive is a drastic myth. I will actually include in the show notes. I will include in the show notes the some links to being vegan on 25 $25 a week, or being vegan on $10 a week. It's interesting how you can spread out. I know, like, even when I wasn't vegan yet, I basically ate vegan when I was unemployed for a while. This was years ago, where I would really just get bags of beans, bags of rice, and frozen vegetables, and I would make soup. That would last me nearly a week, nearly like 5 days. This big thing of soup, and that was like it was $1.50 for rice, $1.50 for beans, and whatever I'll try to get buy one get one free on the frozen veggies. I made this massive soup. It was great, and it was filling, and it worked. It was satisfying, and it did what it needed to do. But the idea that a plant-based diet is or has to be expensive is a massive, massive myth. I mean, if you look at the cost of beans per pound versus a animal based like meat per pound, beans are going to win hands down. But also here's the thing with that too. You're going to get protein that's more readily available to the body from your beans. You're also going to get fiber. You're going to get more vitamins, more nutrients, and more minerals from a pound of beans versus like a pound of whatever meat you're eating. Not that you should be eating a pound of either one of them. That's way too much. But of either one, you might get a little stomachache, especially from the meat one. But really, with the meat option, you're going to have these 7-8 deficiencies. Where the bean one, you're basically taking care of a good chunk of them. You're going to get calcium from the beans there too. So you're taking out you're pushing yourself up in a much better situation, having an inexpensive item versus an expensive item for the meat one with the beans being the cheaper option. So if you're worried about the myth of a plant-based diet being too expensive, you're hearing the plant-based diets are too expensive. When you go to the store, it's really not. You can literally walk around and write it down, and you can show people, look, here's how much beans cost, here's how much meat costs, here's the nutrition difference, and show them there is a massive difference in cost being lower on a plant-based diet if you so choose. Again, I've done it. I've gone in there and spent $10 and like, wow, I got like 5 days worth here. And this is for one person, obviously. For me, or I've gone in there and then with 50 and like, okay, I got tonight's dinner, because I went a little crazy, but so it's important to recognize any diet, no matter what diet you're on, is as expensive as you make it to be. If you're worried about the cost of a plant-based diet, put yourself on a budget. Make a budget. We got $100 this week. Got $50 this week. Whatever your budget is reasonable, and then try to beat your budget. Like, hey, we got $100 for the week. That's what we're going to spend on, and then spend less. And you'll be amazed that how easy that is to do, to spend less if you're smart and you pay attention to what you're buying. And go in there just walking around putting things in a cart, plan it. It's going to be drastically inexpensive. And I cook meals all the time, and I'm happy to share those with you. Shoot me an email at kirstyveg@gmail.com. Happy to share recipes with you that I have. Maybe I can post them up on the site sometime. Next is it's always healthy. I think this is our Fourth one, yeah, we're almost done here. Almost near the end. This is our fourth one. It's always healthy. I'll tell you right now, being vegan is not always healthy. I ate a cupcake before I recorded this. That wasn't a healthy option. Good, but it was definitely healthy. And I recognize that it's really easy to go, oh, these cookies are vegan, or this ice cream, or these cakes and things like that. It's still sugar. It's still empty calories with thing to them. There was nothing in that cupcake that I needed other than the fact that I just wanted it, and we had it. And so, like for me, what I do to try to keep this in check is I only do sweets on the weekend. Do a cookie or two, or maybe a cupcake, a piece of I do that on the weekend, and during the week, don't do it. Like my girlfriend would say, "Hey, I want to make muffins, or I want to bake a bread, or whatever." I'm like, "Okay, that's great, but you realize you're the only one eating this." I do not eat sweets during the week, and that keeps me because I've had a weight problem my entire life, and I know that about myself. So ensuring that I'm keeping kind of like the bad stuff for the weekend ensures I'm not overindulging without paying attention. No, it's not to say that I have, if something comes along and I'm like, okay, I'll give myself a relax. I'm not harsh on myself, which you shouldn't be. But at the same time, I'm aware of who I am. I'm aware of my body type. I'm aware of how easy I gain weight. And so I keep an eye on that. It's really easy to be what's called a junk food vegan. Most new vegans are like this. You're going to be a junk food vegan. You're going to go and you're going to load up on the fake chickens and the fake fish and the meats, and you're going to get the Daya cheese pizzas, and you're really going to do it. Most vegans, you're going to do that. I've been vegan for 5 years. I do that on occasion if I'm in a rush. I'm like, okay, it's late. I don't have time to make anything. We'll do. Okay, I'll make stuff for. I'll make a quick spinach salad, and then we'll do the gardening fish and some fries. Do fish and chips and a nice little salad, and that's it. I'm getting my greens in. I always make sure to get my greens in. But it's easy to go to. It's easy to be a junk food vegan. Thing is, to once you're past the intro vegan stage, you're like, okay, I've had my fill of gardening, but gardening amazing stuff. Especially for transitioning, they're amazing, or something quick. It's easy being healthy. Um, and it's important to recognize when you're down that road. But at the same time, not every vegan is making sure they're getting their greens every day like I try to do. Not every vegan is, eating just, eating like, oh, I'll have a cucumber, tomato, and black olive salad with a little bit of olive. Not everyone's doing that. So the fact that that it's always going to be healthy is not true. So if you come into a vegan diet, so I'd say this is the reason why I've seen this as a myth. Not the vegan diet isn't 100% healthy. You have to be aware that just because you're eating vegan chocolate, just because you're eating something that's not really meat, just because it was done this way and there's not any dairy in it, that doesn't mean it's 100% healthy for you. You have to be aware that it's okay for me to have this piece of vegan cake, but at the same time, you need to eat your leafy greens and your broccoli and your beans and your rice and your potatoes. Eat a plant-based diet, not a fake-based diet. Okay, that's I think it's a good distinction. I want people to, especially coming into this, maybe in this for a little while, and you realize you're basically eating a lot of processed stuff. Eat a plant-based diet, not a fake-based diet, and you're going to see your health improve. You may see a positive change in your weight. Okay, so it's easy to be unhealthy. It's also very easy to be healthy, and I want everyone who is coming in to be aware of that. Have your fun. Transition the way that works best for you to a more cruelty-free life, but at the same time, be aware of your own health and do what you can to ensure the continued health. Finally, pregnancy and children. It's a lot of people assume that if you're vegan, your kids can't be vegan. If you're pregnant, you can't be on a vegan diet because what if the baby wants meat, or how are you going to get all your vitamins, nutrients, because you need more and things like this. Which is you do need more. Be more mindful and get more of certain vitamins as well, folic acids, things like that. Disclaimer: I'm a guy. I'm a male. I'm a man. I have no way of becoming pregnant. This is based on research, and of course, this is speaking in generalities. It's always important to go, if you are pregnant, you are wanting to raise your children as a vegan, and you want to be pregnant as a vegan, work with your doctor, work with a pediatrician, tell them your plans, tell them, this is the diet I want to follow, with me or my child, and then work with them and maybe talk to a dietitian if you have that available to you. By no means assume that what I'm saying here is medical advice. It's general information based off my own research. Okay, disclaimer. We're good. Already heard it. Okay. So the biggest thing with pregnancy in children, especially with pregnancy, is getting your calories and consuming the accurate. Learn to speak, David. Learn the adequate amounts of specific nutrients, including your B12, your vitamin D, iron, and calcium. Some stuff we've talked about earlier. That vegans are just tendally lower in anyway. And we'll talk about some sources for that. So when you need your B12, nutritional yeast, also called nooch. I keep a little thing of it in the little. It's usually full, but now it's not. I'm using it a lot. My girlfriend made some really great vegan chili. Oh, it was amazing. But put some nooch on some chili now. You got a little sprinkle some nooch on that. But and some little pizzas recently. Anyway, I can go all day about it. Her vegan chili was awesome. But nutritional yeast, also called nooch. You can get that in bulk bins, usually at a Whole Foods or some health stores. They're also I think Bragg's and carries a version of it. Not Bragg's. There is a brand that I think Bob's Mill carries a brand of nutritional yeast. There's Bragg's. I think Bragg's does have a nutritional yeast sprinkle thing. And you put that. It has a cheesy flavor. If you don't know, if you're kind of iffy on nutritional yeast, it's kind of like a vegan Parmesan cheese kind of thing. So you can put it on chili, on salads. If you like, put a little. Have you used to having like a cheesy flavor on your salad? Great on pizzas because it's already have a cheesy flavor. If you want to get some vitamin B12 in your diet and you don't want to like just put it on anything, add it to pizza. It's great. It's going to add and enhance the flavor of it. To that very great cheesy flavor. And also it's going to get your B12 in. Of course, fortified foods, fortified almond milks and soy milks, cereals that are fortified with B12. Fermented foods do have B12 in them, such as like kombuchas and kimchi, things like that do have traces of B12 in them. It's produced by the bacteria. Okay. Vitamin D, typically fortified foods, the same type of sources. Mushrooms are a great source of vitamin D. I love mushrooms personally. Some people it can be the texture can be a little much for them. I know a few people like that. They don't like mushrooms because it's not the flavor, it's just the texture. And honestly, if you have the option, sunlight, just going out in the sun. Of course, short walking and like light exercise is good. If you are expecting. And for kids, it's great. Getting out in the sun, running around, it's great for overall health. Also, vitamin D. Iron. Again, we talked about iron recently. Some great sources for iron other than your seaweed and your sea vegetables. Spinach, collards, and kale. Dried fruit, pumpkin seeds, quinoa, edamame, beans, just to name a few. And those are great sources of iron. Like I said, I only named a few of them. Those are some that are easily obtainable. Great snacks for kids. Great snacks if you're pregnant. Dried fruit, seeds, your quinoa, edamame, beans. And I can talk about beans all the way through. It's a magical fruit. It's got your fiber, your protein, it's a vitamin, your iron, things like that. It's amazing. Next, talk about calcium. Your yogurts, of course, plant-based yogurts, your coconut, your soy. Soy milks, tofu, really a lot of soy. You're going to have a lot of calcium out of a lot of your soy products. Leafy greens. I mean, really, if you're having, you can make, make something. You take your mushrooms, you put a little, some spinach with the mushrooms, some quinoa, and some edamame, some beans, some, maybe some leafy greens in there. You got a meal right there, and you're going to get everything you need, nutritional yeast on top, have the cheesy flavor. You literally have B12, vitamin D, iron, and calcium in one meal. You're already making sure your numbers are up. Okay? And then I have another like a little bit of research here as well. I want to read for you. It's from the International Journal of Obstetrics. Obstetrics. I'm going to say that, and you can correct me if you like to. And gynecology. See, I didn't say gynecology, right? I said that one right. It's a Journal of Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. They said, and this is quote, the evidence of vegetarian diets in pregnancy is heterogeneous and scant. The lack of randomized studies prevents us from discussing The effects of diet consuming factors within these limits. Vegan vegetarian diets may be considered safe in pregnancy provided the attention is paid to vitamin and trace element requirements. And so I think this was very important. I pulled this out, and it sounds like it's a bit contradictory to what I'm talking about. The point I wanted to make with this was there's not a lot of studies done. And when I say not a lot, I mean there's not a very large amount of studies, right? So the ones that have been done have concluded what this in last piece is. Essentially saying there's not a lot of studies done, so we can't get really deep into the details. But the studies that have been done have shown that as long as you're paying attention to your vitamins and your trace elements, such as B12, vitamin D, iron, calcium, and so forth, you're fine. And that's the main thing. You don't have to consume dairy products and eggs and cheese and chicken and beef while you're pregnant or for your children, as long as you're just eating a naturally plant-based round diet. Okay. And make sure you're getting a lot of varied foods into your body, right? Again, it's important to work with your doctor, with your gynecologist, your pediatrician, with whoever you're working with, whether it's for your children or yourself, to say, here's my diet. If you want to explain why it's important to you to say, basically to say, this is not a wavering factor. What do I need to look out for? What would you suggest? What supplements should I take? What food should I be eating? Could you recommend a dietitian? Could you recommend a nutritionist? And working with them to even do blood tests to find out if you're actually low in something or if you need more of something. You could be naturally low in a vitamin you need. You have to eat more of a plant-based food to compensate. So, as always, when it comes to your deficiencies and what you need during pregnancy and what your children need to be healthy growing up on a plant-based diet, always consult a doctor, always consult a pediatrician to ensure that you are healthy and your children are healthy. And the big point here is you can go through a vegan pregnancy with no problems, no complications. Research has shown that, and plenty of vegans have had children and raised them all the way to adulthood without ever touching animal-based products. And just being mindful, being a round, healthy, all-encompassing plant-based diet, you'll be drastically fine. That's kind of really the 5 I want to go through. To kind of recap, our 5 myths are heavy: supplementation, body type, gender, and race. There's always the athletic female, white female, which we know that's being broken by people all the time and becoming more and more open and encompassing and ensuring people are brought in. Too expensive. Again, everything you do in the grocery store is going to show at the register, regardless of what diet you're following. And you can pay expensive plant-based or cheap plant-based, expensive Omni or cheap Omni. It really just depends on what you're purchasing, and be mindful of your spending. The veganism is always healthy, and it's not. It's important for us to be mindful of our health and ensure we're not becoming the quote junk food vegan. And at the same time, don't take yourself too seriously, and it's okay to indulge from time to time, and enjoy life. You've chosen a plant-based diet because you're going to live anywhere from 5 to 10 years longer than someone who doesn't follow that, and presumably also a healthier lifespan to the longevity of it. So enjoy it at the same time. Don't destroy it. Eat plant-based, but not fake-based, right? And finally, you can be vegan and pregnant, and you can raise your children vegan. Again, being mindful that you're eating a round, healthy plant-based diet with a lot of options and things in your diet, you'll be perfectly fine. That really does it for episode 34. It's been, I'm happy to be back. I'm really, hopefully everything's settled down and I can really get back into the 2-week swing. I have a few things lined up, a few other ideas coming through that I think are going to really be really fun for everyone to really going to enjoy listening to. As always, you can find me and the show and all previous episodes at CuriouslyVegRadio.com. Please contact me if you have any questions, if you would like more information, some links to research. Just say hi. Tell me about your journey. If you want, especially if I love hearing about the journey people go on. I love reading those. I love sharing them. Everyone's journey to being vegan and on that path, and even when you get here and you're walking along beside all of us, is different and unique to everyone. I love hearing it. So please send me your stories. I love to share them with others. If you don't want me to share with them, say, hey, this is to you, this is private. Just, I want to say thank you, or I want to say, hey, here's my thing. What do you, that sort of stuff. I would really love to hear from people. If you want to be a guest or a guest host, so if you have something coming out you want to talk about, there's a topic you want to dig into. Oh, getting a little frog in the throat. If there's something you want to dig into, or a topic, or something that's close to you, you're going to be a guest to talk about with me. Great. If you want to be a guest host, we can work out a topic together. I can do the research and we can work it out and really just kind of have a good back and forth. I'm sure some of you are tired of hearing. If you're tired of hearing me talk to myself, come on the show. Be a guest host with me. Don't have to be permanent. You can do it one time and done. Love to have you on. CuriouslyVeg@gmail.com. Shoot me an email. Let's have you on. I know a few people have emailed me already. Getting back to you this week. Again, it's been crazy with internet and life and job and everything else, but you were on my... Ooh, hit the mic. And we're back. Okay. It's it's my high priority. I'll be getting back to you very soon. If you're listening, you've messaged me. Keep an eye out for a response coming very, very soon to you. As always, you can catch us on your podcatcher of choice. If you cannot find the show, please let me know. I will make sure you can access this. If you have any issues with the show, with audio, anything like that, please let me know. I'll make sure all issues are fixed for you. And while you're there, give us a rating. This is how people find us and how we get feedback. Let us know how we're doing. iTunes is great. Give us 5 stars. As I've said before, you don't give 5 stars, your computer explodes. I don't know how the last guy who didn't give us 5 stars, I don't know how. I hope your computer's okay. If you're listening, I hope your computer's fine. It didn't blow up. It might have been a glitch or it didn't blow up this time, but you gotta give us 5 stars. It's kind of a rule. Give us a thumbs up, 5 stars, 200 hearts, whatever your podcast catcher you choose to use allows. It helps people find us and pushes us into the top so we can touch more minds, ears, and hearts. And until next time, everybody, it was great talking to you. I'll see you very, very soon. Bye, guys.